A few days ago, something weird happened. Someone in the comments of a YouTube video said something stupid. I know, it's unheard of. Against my better interests, I do read all my comments and occasionally they give me ideas for new videos. At least when they're not teaching me a new transphobic acronym or claiming I'm a secret Muslim. Inshallah, this man will be boiled in his own piss. Bit of context for you. In a recent video I talked about how I'm getting ready for the DBD Montreal event in June, and it's pretty expensive to go. Between travel and accommodation in the city, I've spent about £1,000 so far, and I'll definitely be spending more to get to the airport, do malarkey when I'm out there and what have you. But this is where someone very annoying said something very dumb. Let's read it together, shall we? Shelling out that much money to go to IRL event for this particular company makes you an idiot. Not in terms of being smart with money, but the decision to go there anyway. These folks have no right asking more money from any of us, even if it means them acting nice for a day and not hiding behind screens. I'm not going to mince words. This guy's a moron. I'm not going to this event for behaviour, I'm going for the community. If I was just going to events because of behaviour, I'd have gone to the Scotland HorrorCon in Glasgow this year or last year, because it'd be way more affordable for me to travel to Scotland than fly to Canada. I'm going because there's a shitload of people here that I really want to see. Some of them are devs, but the majority of them are creators or other community figures that I've run into throughout my almost 6 years rattling around this game as Pixel Bush. But the dumbassness of this commenter did give me an idea. Why not talk about those people? The people I'm actually flying across the Atlantic for? In today's video, I'll be showing you who I consider to be the best the DBD community has to offer. Twitch streamers, YouTube yappers, and other people who make this community a better place through their work. And before anybody asks, I'll be leaving the huge names like Otts, Hen, Scott, etc. off my list because, yeah, no shit, these people are good at what they do. You didn't watch this video to hear me go, yeah, I like Odstava and hens, That'd be like if you clicked on a list of my favourite drinks and I said, oh yeah, water's pretty good. To that end, I'll be leaving this list mostly to creators of my kind of size or smaller, and links to their socials or whatever will be in a paste bin in the description so you can check them out yourself. Assalamu alaikum, friends and foes, survivors and killers, to my favourite people in the Dead by Daylight community. First things first, anyone who knows me shouldn't be surprised to know that I love killer specialists. Fear not the killer who zoned with 1,000 powers. Fear the killer who was zoned 1,000 times with 1 power. Okay, sometimes it's 3 powers, because the first person on my list is one of my best friends, the canon wife of the Night DBD, ZM Pixie. Pixie is a hardcore Night enthusiast who streams extremely regularly, usually Dead by Daylight but a fair bit of Deadlock too, and she's been instrumental in helping inform and educate people about the Night, a struggle I can very much sympathise with. Pixie has been relentless in championing her large Hungarian husband. Her stream has helped a lot of people who understandably don't quite get the Night, and she's taken part in killer showcases and charity tournaments to bring this underloved niche killer to a wider audience. Some people have said that Night is to Pixie what Skull Merchant is to me, although I've never gotten DBD's creative director Dave Richard to marry Adriana and me at PAX. Pixie's gotten me beaten on that front. Despite not really loving the Night myself, frankly it's because my ears are made of wood, Pixie's made me wish I did, whether it's her streams or her videos or her art. I'm always impressed with what she makes, and you should go check her out. Another killer specialist I enjoy, despite not really caring for the killer themselves, is Horserer, who's currently holding on to the title of #1 nemesis worldwide. Horse is a full-time streamer, and if you pop by any stream of his, chances are he's probably doing some horrible messed up whip drags or getting mad at his zombies uselessly dry humping a box or the outside of a tile somewhere. What I appreciate honestly more than his nemesising, however, is the Stars of the Fog series, which I would totally have used as the video title if he hadn't already grabbed it, by the way. In this series, Horse goes through and interviews a ton of significant figures in the DBD community. Originally it was specialists in each killer, including a certain very wise and handsome Skull Merchant enthusiast, but it's since expanded to cover a wide range of community figures. Honestly, if this video interests you, basically the entire Stars of the Fog series is something you'd probably fuck with, so do go take a look. Lynxie is the Twins' strongest soldier, always has been. I've always been there for the macro play and unique decision points of DBD's second most forgotten killer, but Lynxie takes it one step further, and has been the queen of Victor snipes since basically the killer came out. Lynxie was one of the first creators I watched regularly when I first started making videos for YouTube, and she's still great. So if you like twins and your stream viewing habits happen to align with Norwegian time zones, go take a look. I've got 2 artist mains on this list. Long-term fans of my work might remember that I had an artist phase for a while when she came out, and even though I don't really play her anymore, she's a character I still have a lot of love for, and Prion and Carnivorous are loyal fans of the killer who I enjoy watching regularly. Karn and I have been friends for years. I may have manipulated her audience into forcing her into P100ing Skull Merchant in her subathon. I would say I'm sorry for that, but I'm not really. Karn is an absolute gem, and her name has been synonymous with that of the artist for years, for a goddamn reason. But the other name in the artist tick box in my notes is someone I've first encountered much more recently. Prion is another artist fanatic who has a history in the competitive DBD space, and this gives him an outlook on public games that few creators have. The discussions we've had about the state of the game and the futures of various killers have been enlightening and honestly quite refreshing. He has a ton of valuable insight about the weird and wonderful game that we call home, and I cannot recommend his streams enough. In terms of other specialists to look out for, Vampire Toothy's been a good friend of mine for years now, and is one of the best unknown players in the business. Me and him go way back. I remember back when Ascension the Blight player was still around, and I was still a baby content creator. Ascension told me that Toothy was the single best Blight player in NA at the time. But Toothy's moved on from Blight in the years since, as his love of M2 zoners emerged like a tiny little dasher pillar, turning into a beautiful zoner fly. He was a Pyramid Head player for a while.
I like to observe what the player is doing and react accordingly to that.
Before moving on to be the unknown guy. He played in Hen's showcases before and regularly makes the Harmless look anything but. I'm genuinely so proud of how Toothy's grown as a creator and as a person over the years I've known him. He's worked really hard to get where he is, and I'm really looking forward to meeting him in Montreal for the first time. When you hear the words nurse specialist, Volpixia is one of the names you hear bandied about a lot, and it's for good reason. Volpixia's streams are some of the best around for a quiet evening. I often find myself kind of mentally drained from doing loads of editing or something, and when I'm done, I need to watch something that's not someone yelling and screaming and having Liberace pop up out of the sub box whenever somebody follows. Volpixia is absolutely perfect for that. Her vibes are chill, her engagement with chat is amazing, and she's one of the most measured people I know. I also really appreciate how she's not afraid to touch on sensitive topics, bring community issues to light, and take direct action to keep odious figures in the world of DBD away from the wider community. If you know, you know. Volpixia has had a brief break from streaming for a while, but she's back with a vengeance now, and is definitely worth looking into if you can catch one of her long late night streams. And the last person in this section of killer specialists is Revium, someone who I've had on the channel before at least once. Revium likes a lot of things. He likes the Skull Merchant, which is pretty cool of him. He likes Tokyo Ghoul and other anime stuff, which I'm a little more indifferent on, but good for him. But Revium especially loves the Trickster, and that much should be obvious when you watch his streams. Rev is the kind of guy who gets very invested in basically everything that catches his interest. It's either boring, or it will live in his brain rent-free for years, and you can see it in how he plays Trickster. He's patient and methodical, focusing heavily on precision, expressing skill with his blades in the moment, and his feedback was instrumental in Trickster's recent rework. Rev puts a lot of time and love into this game, and if that sounds like someone you could keep coming back to watch, definitely take a look. Before we continue, this video is brought to you by Kumitante Old School Slaughter, a brand new game developed by Mango Factory and published by Akupara Games. Trying to come up with a single genre to describe this one is a bit challenging. It is a card battler and a visual novel and a murder mystery, but it's far easier to make sense of Kumitante by comparing it to its inspirations. If you're familiar with games like Danganronpa or Persona and then watch the trailer or some gameplay for Kumitante, you'll quickly start to pick up what this game is putting down. I enjoy the game's deliberately aged vibes that suit the era of gaming and animation it pays homage to. A lot of the character and environment designs are based on 80s and 90s anime, and the game is set in alternate 1989 where a bunch of students are locked in a mysterious bunker that resembles a school and forced to kill each other to survive. The game's cast is large and colourful. Everyone will have their favourites, and there's so many of them there'll be at least a couple that you like. I like the zombie paleontologist because with so many combative personalities among the group, having one of the nicest characters around also be the only non-human is pretty cool. Odds are there will be at least one character you'll want to punch in the mouth, but hey, this is a game about murder. If you're lucky, you'll be investigating their corpse before too long. The game will be released in an episodic format as the cast dwindles, the mysteries unfold, and you figure out the truth behind the bunker. At the end of the day, I know my audience pretty well, and as soon as I read the premise of this game, and definitely after I played it, I knew there would be some people in my audience who will be obsessed with this game if you try it out. And it releases, Cassie, what's the date today? Today! It releases today, if I get my video out in time, that is. And you can go check it out on Steam right now. The link to the game's Steam page is in the description, so please go check it out, give the small and dedicated dev team at Mango Factory a chance, and have a bloody good time with Kumitante Old School Slaughter. So thank you very much to Akupara and Mango Factory sponsoring this video. There is a second Trickster enthusiast I'd like to talk about here, but they segue a bit into the second section of creators I'd like to highlight in this video. The yappers. If Revium is one pillar of the North American Trickster community, Zozo is the other. But she's been a bit more disillusioned with talking about specific killers over time. Makes sense when you've been stuck in the Trickster rework waiting room for 3 years and the killer is arguably weaker than he was before. With her presence primarily on YouTube, Zoe is a first-rate yapper. Her video essays on DBD are some of the best you'll see, with high production quality and better editing than I'm capable of, that's for damn sure. I think my favourite topics she's covered have been, well, aside from Skull Merchant obviously, 2v8, because she was cynical about 2v8 before it was cool to be, and her criticisms about the mode from last year still hold up now. Arguably, they're more relevant than ever. So yeah, just like everybody else in this video, Zoe's YouTube channel is linked in the description, so do go pay her a visit. Another yapper who specialises in a killer is Cassia, the creator of the Dream Master's Guide to Freddy. You're welcome for that name, by the way. Cassia's always managed to keep up with a huge variety of topics and handles everything in a pretty even-handed fashion. If there was a single creator I would say here definitively deserves a bigger audience, it is them. They've recently made Strikeland, a definitely very serious Twitter account where all fans of the Slaughtering Striker can come together and share their high MMR Strike gameplay. Genuinely, it is such a great time. The DBD community needs a lot more Cassia in their regular diet. Silenced Hero is a creator I love checking in with from time to time because there's not too many people out there who give as much attention to DBD's perk design as Hero. That is, putting as much thought into DBD's really dogshit perks as they do into the meta-defining game breakers everyone complains about. Why no one uses X as perks is a series I've always liked to check back on every so often because there's always a perk I've forgotten about, and Hero's methodical approach helps me remember stuff I've probably forgotten about this increasingly complicated game. They've done a lot more besides that series, but it's a mainstay of their channel, and if you like high detail deep dives into stuff that regularly gets overlooked, go pay them a visit. This section is just called The Lore Nerds in my notes, but it's the one section where I'm unquestionably ignoring the rule that I made earlier about only showing off creators my size or smaller, because Mintskull and Asimovs are undoubtedly bigger than me, but I don't care, they deserve it anyway. Asimovs, Frickin' Nick, and Mintskull are the other people who can and do really read DBD lore in this community and provide a totally different set of insights about the game and its world. I've done a lot of stuff with these guys before. Frickin' Nick had us on for a game of Jeopardy, we've done yapping in Swift sessions before, I've been on Nick's Hook Ones podcast where we played 2v8 together, I've even done some tournament casting with Mintskull, and that was fucking wild. I know Agi and Nick are at least going to Montreal, I don't think Mintskull is, but these are some people I'm really looking forward to catching up with in June. And the last yapper is someone I would consider a hidden gem of the community, someone working hard to help what they can in a severely underappreciated area of the game, and that's Shy. Shy is a streamer who mostly plays Survivor these days, but has been very active in trying to improve DBD's lacking accessibility features. For over a year, Doctor's static VFX have been causing issues for epileptic players. The only reason I didn't bring it up in my recent video on the Doctor is because it had been around so long I assumed the bug had been fixed, and Shy has been constantly pressing the issue to her own detriment. She gets so much shit from random fuckheads who seem to take inconveniencing epileptic people as some sort of badge of honour, so go show her some appreciation from me. I'm sure she could use some more positivity. Before I wrap up, there's a few more community figures I'd like to show off, because of specific projects they've completed that I think are absolutely indispensable to the DBD community. All but one of these people do stream or make YouTube stuff on their own, but what impresses me more than that are totally unique innovations that have improved this community in the longer term. Slender Killer is a VTuber who really likes the Xenomorph, but the contribution I'd like to highlight from them is the Prestige 100 library, a website dedicated to logging a list of as many Prestige 100 players as possible all in one place. The way it works is pretty simple. You take a screenshot of your P100 screen, submit it in a form with a couple of details, and before too long your P100 is logged on the database, so you can show it off alongside all the other logged P100s for that character. You can search me up, for example, and you'll find my 5 P100s on there. Twins, Skull Merchant and Houndmaster for Killer, and Haddie and Lara for Survivor. This is a super nifty site, and Slender has filled a niche behaviour never thought of when they were creating the Prestige system, so go pay them a visit on their Twitch and say hi from me. P100 library is linked in the description, so if you've got P100s that you want logged, you can do so right there. Another community resource I'd like to draw attention to is the Ultimate Dead by Daylight asset collection curated by PeachyFriend, a PNG tuber and artist who's assembled possibly the single most useful database of Dead by Daylight content creation I've ever come across. I use this basically every time I make a video. If I need an asset for a character portrait or a perk or an add-on or a power icon, Peachy has got it archived in the Ultimate Resource Pack, free to use. They update it consistently with new icons and assets as they release, and it is absolutely indispensable. Please seriously go give Peachy some love, because odds are that your favourite DBD content creator has used some stuff Peachy has sourced and added to the collection. They are an absolute gem in this community, so go and show them your appreciation. British Boop is another name behind an indispensable tool in the DBD community because he's the lead developer for Nightlight, the great big DBD stat tracking site that's gone from strength to strength in the past few years. It is a phenomenal hub for a bunch of useful community tools. It has a tool to help people upload and install custom icon packs for the game. It tracks Steam stats by a bunch of useful metrics. It tracks the Shrine of Secrets and of course logs killer, survivor and perk, pick and win rates based on user submitted games. You should definitely start using Nightlight's features to upload your game data to the site, and let it be even better by painting a more accurate picture via your matches. Seriously, Nightlight is an amazing tool, and British Boop deserves all the love in the world. And last but most certainly not least, I'll draw attention to Shaders, who's got a lot of fingers and a lot of pies. Some of you might know him as the Houndmaster aficionado. He appeared on Horses, Stars and the Fog episode for the character after all. He's helped me on projects before, lending his voice to areas that have needed voice work, and has done some playtesting for behaviour too, which is pretty cool. But what I want to highlight is his contribution to the DBD competitive community and the production of Balanced by Daylight, a website that helps competitive players manage their builds and rule sets. You go on the website, pick the balancing rules from a list of presets, or you can add your own, and it tells you which killers are available to play, what their balancing is, and verifies your builds to make sure they're compliant with the current rules. The sheer number of leagues and events that you can see in the preset list is a testament to how much the comp community has jumped on this system. It has, no pun intended, genuinely changed the game. Over the past several years, Shaders has become one of my best friends, and I am always impressed by his dedication to the projects that he works on. Balanced by Daylight is just a small part of that. When I started making videos, I always said that the DBD community deserves a better class of content creator. Back in the bad old days of 2020, there were a lot of prominent figures in this game's community that just exhausted me. A lot of them made pretty bad content, or had some overall negative effect on the community. And part of my inspiration to make the videos I did was to be the change I wanted to see in the world of DBD. Looking back on it, 6 years later, I think that broader change has largely come to pass for the most part. So many great people have made their voices heard over the years, and lots of the more odious figures have become less prominent in the community over the years, or moved on to other things once they got bored. And that's why I'm so excited to go to Montreal in June, because this community has come so far in the years I've been making videos, and I want to be a part of the celebration of that. So if you're going to be in Montreal in June, I look forward to seeing you there. And if not, well, I'm making some videos on the trip. That's for damn sure. Cassie won't be coming though. She probably wouldn't do great on a plane. You're gonna look after the flat, okay? You make sure we're safe. Alright, little miss? She takes responsibilities very seriously. Right, that's all from me, because I've got to go. It's almost time for prayers. So from Cassie and me, Shukran Jazilan, Ila Likar, and we'll see you next time. Don't forget to check out Kumitante Old School Slaughter, releasing on April 23rd. Till next time.